Okay, we're doing the Allstage interview here at Charterhouse Studios. An old friend, John Bellone Jr., and I have to say that because of John Bellone Sr. We've kind of talked off camera about this. Just tell me how the family got to coming and opening the music, like with your dad, his background, and kind of how it all kind of started.
Okay, we go back in time. We go back to France, okay, where we're from, right? And my father, right around the Second World War, just after the Second World War, went up to a school called Miracourt, which was a luthier school that's been there for centuries, teaching people how to make violins and cellos and stuff, right? And that's where it all started. And this is like a really, like, you have to know your woodwork to get in there, okay? But also it was a very strict kind of old-fashioned learning environment where at the end of the first year you'd have a violin all made, right? And then the maestro would get everybody in the auditorium, everybody in the school to come into the auditorium, and he'd test them in front of everyone. And if you passed, you got it back, right? But if you didn't, it went into a fire. He had a fire on the stage, right? And he'd throw them in there. And if your violin went in the fire, you could come back the next year and try again, but you weren't allowed to try to make violins again. You'd be making cellos. Okay, this is how this place worked for centuries, right? And I only know this story because my father got his violin back. I would never have heard it otherwise. So, and I guess, things were kind of tough after the war in France, and he just decided there was more opportunity in Canada. His brother had already come over and told him things were better, you know, and whatnot, and he got a job in the music industry all lined up and everything. He gets over here, that fell through. He was in a factory for 5 years, and then he got a job finally repairing violins and things in Hamilton. And the first 10 years of my life, I lived in Hamilton, and that's where he started it all. And then he opened up a branch for one of the stores, actually, for Pilgrims in London. And then Pilgrims burnt to the ground. and so at that time he bought the branch out, right? And then it became Bellone's Music, right? So yeah, that's sort of how we got into London and the whole deal.
Now I can remember, I think, yeah, it was my first gig. It was a grade 8 graduation at Lord Nelson Public School. The store was at Dundas and Waterloo, on the northwest corner. I remember walking in the store, and you had those. It's funny, I can't remember what I had for breakfast this morning, but I can remember back 40-odd years ago.
There's a reason for that, man. Okay.
And you walked in, and I think the sales counter was on the right as you walked in the store. You had black wrought iron railing that ran down both sides, am I right?
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, I remember that.
There was some drums, cymbal tree. Did you have woodwinds?
We had wind instruments at that time, yeah.
You did?
We still did for a while, yeah. We kind of got out of it because of the repair situation. We really like to repair what we sell, you know, and whatnot. But yeah, he kept them for quite a while, but that's the last store we had them at. Yeah.
And I remember we rented, you had Trainer at the time, and I think GBX amps.
Oh, yeah.
And we rented 1, 2, 3 610 Trainer cabs with the heads, and we're playing in a small school auditorium, and I can still remember your dad going, "Are you sure about this?" And he was saying it more to my dad than to me because I had no clue what we were getting into. My dad, who had no idea about music stuff, went, "Oh yeah, oh yeah." And I remember your dad was kind of like, "Oh, this is going to be really loud for a school auditorium," but we had to have it because they were so big in Mammoth. And yeah, we rented it from you, and we did the gig and got in a whole lot of trouble from the teachers that night at the graduation thing because we were way too loud.
Well, it wouldn't have been a good graduation if you weren't.
Yeah.
Back then, for sure.
So how long were you at the Waterloo store for it?
Okay, well, First, before that, we were on the east side, okay, and
Oh,
we
I
had
know that.
that's our first store. And then we moved over in late 60s, we moved over to the other side of Waterloo. And that store was basically built for us, a music store kind of thing, for us to rent. Like the guy fixed it up and whatnot, right? And then after that, we moved to York and Wellington. Okay, that was in the early 80s. Okay, and the mid 70s. Then the early 80s, we moved over to where we are now, 446 York Street. Okay, and that's where we stay basically. I like it there, and just nice and central, and we have parking. Yeah, which was the problem in the other store.
Yeah, the one at York and Wellington, the drum section was upstairs, was it not?
Yeah.
And I was thinking about this last night. I was thinking about the history of dealing with you, and that was the worst part, was there was no parking.
Yeah.
It was just.
We got in so many hassles with people about parking that it was the best move we ever made, was to get out of that store. And even though the store that we're in now is just slightly smaller, square footage wise, the parking made a huge difference, like right away. Yeah. I mean, you'll go around the block once, but not twice. I mean, that's what it came down to.
So, you go into the York Street store. At what age are you at this point in time?
Oh God. Okay.
Putting you under the gun here, but
I don't know. I'm in my 30s, early 30s.
You go in there. Your dad is still active in the business, very active. Wayne Smith was in charge of the drum department.
Oh yeah.
Who I still talk to a lot on.
Oh yeah.
Everybody's favorite social media. The repair guy. Fred.
Yeah.
That's it. You go in there and you talk to Fred. Fred was really gruff, but there was just something about this guy that...
He's a genius, that's why.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'd never seen anybody who could fix anything before, but he was, he's retired now. He's still around, but he's retired. But wow, yeah, he was, he started fixing tube amps when it was new technology, though. Like he was that good at it. And that used to dealing with those things. Things would come in and out so fast, too, the other thing. But
he had a knack for it.
It was cool, yeah. And it was a time when things were breaking. Okay, these days things don't break nearly as much as they used to. I mean, it used to be a huge factor in what kind of line we'd carry, is how it would last. Because, I mean, people were playing them 6 nights a week. Okay, and that's year after year.
Yep. Okay,
so it had to last, and if it didn't, we had to have it fixed for them by the next gig. Right. That was the excitement of the time. Like, there's so many gigs. I mean, God, you couldn't swing a dead cat without somebody going, "Hey, I like the way you swing that dead cat. Come on, I got a gig for you." Like in London, right? It's all, and as we know, that's not the way the culture is now. But it was something else. And I gotta say, I'm happy I lived through it. And I mean, I'm happy I lived through it. Because, we had some good times, right? But, yeah.
The changes you've seen since, and let's pick the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
From that point forward, the changes you've seen in technology, in products, it must be staggering.
Yeah, it's insane. I've never had better product to sell in my life, okay? As far as durability and innovation, okay, but there's a lot less use for it, I guess. It's more getting into a hobby thing, okay, as opposed to back when it was like most of our business for quite a while was simply professional musicians.
Yep.
There's so many of them, and so now it's switched over, and so has the gear, okay, so. In other words, where some of our technology is a lot more mainstream, a lot faster than it used to be. Okay, because but on the other hand, we're still hanging on to stuff like tubes. Okay, you can't get rid of those things. Some of the stuff I sell is like totally this century, and like auto-tuned guitars, amplifiers with modeling amplifiers and things like that. But then a lot of the stuff is from the last, like, halfway through the last century it was developed. Strat guitars, Les Pauls, all that stuff is a leftover from the last century, right?
Yep.
When you think about it, and still valid today, every bit as much as it was back then, right? So it's kind of a weird thing the way everything has changed in the music end of things, the instrumentation and whatnot. What's really been a little striking is you know, how the shift in the population, in the culture. Now it's more of a thing where people are doing it at home, they're playing with buddies, they're getting together, it's more of a social thing. And so the whole industry has geared on into that. So, like for example, drum sets, features that we had back in the day that cost, like a set that would have cost $3,000, now a lot of those features are in the $900 to $1,200 drums, right? They figured out a way to do it. We kind of got to a point where we had a real economy of scale right before the recession. Okay, so like everything got built up like crazy, and the R&D really stepped up. So now we've benefited over the last few years from that. Okay, still.
Do you find, and really it would span the board here, from novice to seasoned pro. Do you find now that when consumers come in, they're far more savvy?
Oh yeah.
They know the intricacies of a particular piece of gear, and like you, for example, and you're an accomplished musician yourself. The age-old argument of tubes versus solid state.
Yeah.
I'm a drummer. I'm not really a musician, but I know when I go see I know when I go see bands. If I see an amp and hear an amp that's a tube amp, for me, just personally myself, I like the sound of it a lot better. And I'm not going to name brand names here, but not everybody's so inclined. Do you find that consumers now, when they come in, it's like they've done the research, whether it be the web or whatever, and they're not so much, you know, the deer in the headlight kind of thing?
I'm dealing with some intelligent people, you know, no question, and you know, generally that's been the whole issue with musicians. You have to be pretty clever to be able to do that sort of thing and have the memory work and have you know, what you build on, right? So it's little wonder that now when a consumer has all this stuff available to research, I mean, you know, stuff to read in the bathroom or whatever, you read your phone, you can, you know, whatever, right? It's little wonder they come in, they're really, really knowledgeable, okay? And it's great because it's still, even though I'm dealing more with hobbyists, they're still keeping the conversation at a level technically that keeps it a bit challenging and fun, okay? And but yeah, it's it's been you see, the thing is, I love talking about this stuff too, right? So the more I talk to these guys, I find out what they like, what they need. I try to, you know, learn myself off the customer, right? And that's been an important sort of thing. I was going to say, like once I leave the store, I have nowhere to talk about this stuff anymore. Okay, nobody wants to hear about it at the party unless there's another musician, right? Because otherwise, I got all this knowledge, but it's done. Now we have to switch over to, you know, like, I don't know, flowers or cars or something else, but not music, you know. So so that's why I kind of enjoy the fact that my clientele is a lot more educated than a lot of people who buy other product, I would say. You have to be.
Like I come in there and I see, you know, like there'll be, and I'm just going to use this as an example, Marshall amps. Marshall amps, for the most part, to me anyways, and there's different variances of them, but, you know, a Marshall amp's a big cabinet. And then I can remember back years and years ago, you'd come in and you used to have those John Bellone columns, which I have one, and you've got the one in the store, which I think is awesome. But like the PA cabs used to be enormous. It would take half an army to carry them. Now you walk in and they're on stands, the stands telescope. It's amazing how some things have changed dramatically and some things have stayed the status quo. Yeah. Some products are still the big product with the great sound, and they've taken other stuff and streamlined it down and made it more compact and probably affordable too.
Yeah. Well, that's a product of the industry listening to the consumer, okay? Because that's been sort of the goal, is try to make things way less, okay? Basically, make them smaller and less obtrusive. I mean, you know, it's one thing to have 1 million speakers behind you, but it's maybe a little more magical if it's all the sounds coming out of a little wee thing, right? And certainly, like, more tidy to the whole thing. And I don't know. It's been the whole that area, PA and stuff like that, has always been more functional. So it has had to be more innovative and like a lot of the latest technologies going into PA stuff for sure. Guitars, instruments, they're a lot more traditional, and that's why we still have, you know, the Strat and the Tele and the Les Paul and the SG and the Gretsch and the, you know, those are like that. It's like the violin too. It hasn't changed, right? That's the stuff you feel. That's the stuff you play, okay? And that's what you're connecting to the rest of the crap with, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's not had to be changed too much. They're trying, but there's not, you know, it's no matter what, in anybody's guitar collection, they're going to have one of the classics, okay? And that's one of those things, okay?
You and I have kidded about, because I've seen, for example, the Gretsch Renown kit in there, the blue and white one, which to me, it shouldn't even be played. It's a gorgeous piece of furniture. You should be sitting in your, you know, living room. But, and I
it's a nice set of drums. It's a hard kind of armchair.
Yeah. We've talked and I've kidded you about stuff, but it must be really, really tempting just to say to your beautiful wife, you know what, we're moving all the furniture out, and I got all this really neat gear and I'm bringing it home, and this is what we're going to live with from now on.
Yeah, right.
I know you answered a higher
pipe dream there. I'm still trying to get, I got this gong in the store that's a 40-inch gong, and I'm still trying to get that home. Okay, I bought that from me. It's mine, actually. But we had a real young boy, and she was always afraid he'd go nuts on it and wreck his ears, right? But now he's getting a little older, and my argument's getting a little more persistent. I might just take it home eventually. So I love that gong.
Was that the argument that she was using?
What, for that particular thing? Yeah. But she's pretty good, though, I gotta say. she's let me bring home a fair amount of stuff over the years. But how could I resist, right?
Oh yeah.
I have a collection of guitars, and I collected them because I liked them. The off part of it was that they increased in value over the time that I did own them. Although they've gone back down again, the recession's really taken a toll. That and the tsunami in Japan didn't help. But you know, for example, I got a 1960 Strat that my father sold brand new in 1960. Guy traded it back into me in '79, and I just kept it because I liked it, right? And in the '80s, that's when all the prices went up on vintage instruments like crazy, right? And all of a sudden, by the '90s, this thing's worth like 22 grand. Okay, people are selling them, even refinished, like I had. Okay, for 22 grand. The ones that weren't refinished were going for like 45. All right.
Wow.
I kid you not. I've got the books. Okay, and I didn't sell it then. Okay, and now probably worth around 10. But you know, I didn't sell it at 22. I'm not going to sell it at 10. All right.
Yeah.
It's a family heirloom, and that's the way I look at the whole darn collection. You know, you don't make money. If you're a music store owner, you're better off putting the money back into the stock and turning it. Okay, really, you know. But you know, I just got those guitars because I love the darn things, and I like looking at them. I like feeling them. And they never, you know, the other guitarists never get jealous if there's another one that shows up. You know, so I got a special relationship with them.
I have at home. When my dad bought the John Bellone, were they 410 PA columns back then, the ones I have?
The one you have? The 410, yeah, that one, yeah.
And it was a Bogan Challenger, 50-watt head. And I think I showed this to you. I took a picture of it. It's got the John Bellone tag on the inside that was yellow.
Yeah.
It's got the date on there. It was 1972.
Yeah.
And that Bogan is sitting in my music room downstairs, just like,
Too cool.
yeah, yeah, just like. But you know what? It's like you say about your guitar. Obviously, the price is incomparable, but it's something from another time, and you have it just because it means a lot to you.
Oh yeah, 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 exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
I have a Shure microphone. My dad bought at the same time. It's got the white case, and it's the same thing. It's got the tag on the inside. It says 1972. It's an old Shure mic, and it sits up on one of the wall units, and it's got the little stand. And you know, well, like I sit downstairs and I look at this stuff, and I go, "This is just too cool."
Yeah.
You know.
That whole tag thing was started because we at the time we were putting a lifetime warranty, labor warranty on anything we sold. Okay, so that you know, if you had a problem, because back in that time things broke down a lot, especially in the 70s. Okay, so if you had the tag, we could check right away. Yeah, this is the original owner, and get it done for you and whatnot. But it was very important part of servicing the thing, you know. And but now it's turning out like almost like a vintage tag, you know. And that makes me uncomfortable, frankly, because I was there. All right, I feel a little vintagey myself. But yeah, that was all part of that whole service after the sale thing. You know, that is still important.
Now, along with the service thing, and I'm going to give him a shameless plug here, and I've spoken to you about him, Wayne Smith.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Not only was I was in my 20s at the time or whatever when I first met Wayne, and he was a phenomenal drummer, having accomplished at that age what he had done.
Yeah.
The thing about Wayne was I would go in there, and no matter how busy he is, and the same thing is for you and Archie and Ed and Dave and everybody who's there even now. They may be busy doing their own things, but they always have time to talk to you. And that's a huge, like from a consumer standpoint, that's a huge thing. We've all gone shopping someplace, and they haven't got the time of day for you.
Yeah.
You go into your store, and everybody makes time. They know your name. They treat you grade A. With Wayne, I don't know. There was just something about the man that,
He's inspirational.
Yeah,
That's what he was.
yeah,
Yeah. And he still is.
yeah. And he,
Yeah.
as a human
Yeah.
being, he just had a major influence on me.
Yeah, yeah. He and yeah, I had the good fortune of playing with him a few times.
Oh, did
too,
you?
Okay, and yeah, it was cool. He was actually on. I made an EP way back when, and he was on the EP, and so we got pretty close, him and me, for sure, right in kind of a development stage of my music and stuff, right? And yeah, he inspired. There's no question. And Lord knows, I mean, of all the people I've had in the drum department, there's been some good ones. There's, sometimes you got to kiss a few frogs to get to the princes, But for the most part, I mean, I've been very lucky with staff,
Oh, you have it.
And he's sort of shows exactly what we're looking for, and it's sort of somebody who inspires rather than some sort of tyrant. Okay, and you got to watch it too. Like, yes, it's important to talk and to your customers, but you also have to know that there's certain people that don't want to talk. Okay,
Yep.
There's certain people. In fact, that's, from what I understand, one of the big driving factors with the internet. A lot of people don't want to talk to sales guys. Okay. In the music business, it's different, because as soon as you come in through that door, the stuff you've been researching and whatnot becomes valid. And we all want to talk about it, like I said before. Because outside of that, a few buddies who are musicians and all that, this is knowledge that we all enjoy having. We all enjoy knowing more. And yeah, so it's a little different with musicians. And I think, yeah, you're right. You have to kind of get into some conversations just for fun. Okay.
Well, your staff,
Yeah.
every one of them that's, and I've dealt with a lot of them over the years, and the staff that's there now, like, they're just super people. And you know what?
Thank you.
You go in there and you ask them a question, or you have a problem, and they look after it, they're knowledgeable, they know exactly what they're doing. And that's a huge asset to you.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
You know?
Definitely.
Okay, we lost some giants. We lost Jim Marshall. We lost Les Paul a few years ago. With the passing of these gentlemen, how do you see it's going to affect, if at all, the industry as we have known it up to this point?
All these guys were pretty old when they died. Okay, they already had things set up. They haven't been hands-on for quite a while. So I got a feeling things are going to go pretty smooth. But in the case of Marshall, for example, he was the original innovator, you know, that had the brand figured out and whatnot. But it's been quite a while that he hasn't had hands-on with the product line, right? So they've come up with some things that, you know, are definitely in a good direction anyway. So I got a feeling, you know, the companies outlast the people who start them. Okay, look at Fender.
Yeah.
Look at, you know, yeah, companies can be pretty
Resilient?
resilient. Yeah, exactly.
You have I call it the Hall of Fame wall.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's
And it's
famous to me.
I look at it, you know, you look at the names and you recognize some of the bands, you recognize some of the groups. You seem to have kind of put the brakes on it. Is that you gonna rebuild that?
No, yeah. I've got a whole other wall we've put up now that I've been meaning to put the rest of the stuff up. There's going to be pictures all over the place eventually. I'll probably, well, as soon as that one fills up, there'll be another spot I've got to fill up. I love those things.
Oh yeah,
those are great. Some of these, like I got a picture of Bobby Curtola from the '60s. Okay, he's a guy who did 2 rows over and 3 seats down or something, right? And a few other songs. I mean, he was a Canadian star, and he was from London. Okay, and yeah, stuff like that. Ronnie Hawkins is up there, but then all the local guys like the Bluesman Review, the Thunder Mug, the Raising Cane. It's cool because you get to see all these guys, and sometimes you got to wonder why they were wearing what they're wearing. Yeah. Okay, let's just be happy spandex is gone. Okay. But yeah, it's fun to see that, and yeah, there'll be more.
Like we kind of talked briefly earlier. Your stamp, your dad's stamp, your stamp on musicians, their sons, their daughters in southwestern Ontario or wherever their careers or lives has led them is enormous, because you've been around, you've withstood the recessions, the ups, the downs. People kept buying. Sure, at times volume was probably great. At times volume drops back down when people are losing things in society. But you and your business has touched so many people. There's so many people who, yeah, I remember Bellone's, and I talk to people who have moved off to different cities or different parts of the country or whatever. I used to go to Bellone's when it was on York and Wellington. I dealt with Bellone's when it was on York Street. The people you've sold instruments to, dealt with, whatever, like I said, your dad and you, it's staggering really when you think about it.
Yeah, been pretty lucky, no question, no question. And there's been a few that have done very well, okay, as far as even despite what's happened in the music industry in a general sense. You know, and it's, I like to think that I didn't get in the way, okay? I don't know how much I could have inspired people along the way, but I can say that I didn't want that, you know, because of something I did, that they wouldn't be able to do a show, or they wouldn't be able to, you know what I'm saying?
Yep,
So
yep.
That's the only thing I've been, you know, I think is very important. Don't get in the way. If they want to get something, you get it for them. You know, basically make sure it works. And yeah, so the fact that I guess I've had a lot of good friends over the years. There's no question. You know, I've played with a bunch of these guys that I deal with today, and you see in the bars today and whatnot. And then, it's a friendly business. It's a friendly brotherhood, the musician thing.
It is.
Okay, that's why I'm never involved with Battle of the Bands or anything like that, because I don't think that's the way it should be. I think we should all just kind of get together and do things instead of, you know, bringing competition into everything. You know, competition, it's a part of life, I guess, you know, but it doesn't have to be a part of everything. It doesn't have to be a part of art, you know, and that's something that a place like Nashville knew, okay? There's been cooperation amongst musicians like crazy, okay, for years, and that's why they're a big music center. Okay, they helped each other along to get to this point. This town has a huge amount of talent. In my store, I've got a 300 CD disc changer full of CDs from my customers. Okay, some are done in studios, some are done in their basements and whatnot, but you'd be surprised at the quality of music that comes out of them. You know, and that's just in this area. So I think basically, if it's kind of too bad that there's no venues in this town at the moment, but things bounce back. Things bounce back eventually. It's just a matter of a cultural shift, I guess. But
and the bar owners in the city are all great people. Sure, they're businessmen, but they're not in a bar just to make a buck. They're in a bar because they love music as well. Yeah. And you can see it, you talk to them, you catch them just having a beer, shooting the hell, and they're trying really, really hard to bring it all back.
I think we almost have to reinvent the gig. You know, like, seriously, I mean, maybe find different venues than bars. And people have been. I mean, there's a whole circuit now in the old age homes. Okay, a lot of guys my age and older are playing the you know, the old age homes really, and finally they're getting decent entertainment. Okay, but one guy was saying, yeah, I'm playing them. It's good money, but also I'm checking out which one I want to go to. Yeah. But in any case, yeah. So they found, it's funny how they've found a niche in there, because you know, a lot of people in these homes now they'll listen to the Stones. It doesn't have to be Sinatra, right?
They're younger than the Stones.
You know what I'm saying? So it's interesting, but also in the bars, it's obvious that, you know, there's been an issue with drinking and driving and all that. That's what basically started the whole descent of the bar business. But you know, if they started the gigs earlier, I think, you know, as a universal thing, I think that's a good idea. I think also the bands, if they, you see, the DJs, they're here to stay. They do the covers, okay? And you can't get any more perfect cover than using the CD, okay? Yep. So that's covered, right? Basically, I think bands should concentrate a little more on the show, a little more lighting, okay? Not just be a bunch of guys in the corner making noise, okay? A little more interaction with the audience, a little more showbiz, you know, in a big way, but and more original stuff. You know, making the, I mean, you can do covers, but make it your own song, and make it so that when somebody comes to see a show, it's a piece of art that only exists at that moment, and you got to point it out to people that this is a very unique experience tonight, you know, and get that sort of thing happening. Because to try to just mimic a bunch of other musicians ain't going to get us anywhere. Not when the DJs are already taking care of that market. What we got to be is a little more innovative, just like the music industry has been with equipment and whatnot. We got to think another way, and that's, if there's any kind of criticism on of the local music scene, I would say that's the only thing we could. The musicianship is phenomenal. Yes, okay. Yes. Camaraderie, all that sort of stuff. It's all great, but we're not doing the 6-night gigs anymore. So we've got to do more rehearsing. We got to do, you know, something has to happen to keep the level up, right? But yeah, I think the whole industry would benefit around here if we got a little more creative on stage.
Do you think that's in part? like Archie was in here a couple of weeks ago with Nasty Alex. And like Archie was saying, the bands back in the 80s that were making $1,000 are making 500 now, and the bands that are making 500 would never have got foot in $1,000 a night gig.
Mm.
And there's some merit to that. Without being insultive, there is some merit with that. But the other part of that is bands would put on a show, like you just said. Do you find, or do you think, I should say, the bands kind of have relaxed because they walk into a bar and they've got a little tiny spot of the floor, they got a little tiny stage, and why bring lights, why do this, why do that? I haven't got the room, I haven't got the means. There's only a few bars that have full production, big stages, that you can do that, you can take advantage of that. Do you think that's kind of made bands kind of, oh, well, you know what, the only thing I can do is get up there and play my music? Which is not a bad thing, because like you say, there's phenomenal bands here, but it's...
Most of us musicians are introvert extroverts, okay? And it's, you want to be in front of the crowd, but some guys don't want to be in front of the crowd as such. You know, there'll be maybe I've talked to some bass players, you know, they're happy looking the other way, okay, or whatever, okay? There's not everybody's going to be connecting, but we should, and even in a small stage, the idea of the whole showbiz thing I'm talking about is connecting with the audience, okay? Yep. Making, like, if you don't acknowledge them, if you don't talk to them in an intimate setting like a bar or a restaurant, I mean, there's an elephant in the room. You're sitting there and you're missing the point, right? And I think basically we've sort of lost a grip on our audience, but not because of our skills as musicians, but more of our sort of communication to them besides the music, okay? And that's where, and also, let's not forget that home entertainment is like way, like a huge competition to anything going on in any kind of venue, okay? Because it's so much better than it ever was. We can only hope that we get bored with it and we still crave humans, you know, but we must not forget that, I mean, when you go to a concert or an event or anything like that, there's something that happens in the crowd.
Yes.
Okay? And you see it and you feel it. And especially if it's good stuff that's happening on the stage, right? And that you don't get at home. You can watch a concert all you want at home. You don't get that extra thing. Like when I saw Prince the last time, when he walked on stage, you can almost see the electricity go through the crowd. Okay, there's something about a real star coming on stage, and what happens to people. Crowds create a sort of an environment, sort of a psychotic thing or something that everybody's on the same wavelength, and there's a power there. Okay, that we're forgetting about because we're watching TV, you know. But when you go out to a bar and it's rocking and everybody's having a good time, you will catch that.
Yes, you will. It's contagious.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just a matter of maybe people waking up out of this like cyber snooze that we're going through, and getting a little more creative. Because again, that, you know, it's a matter of dulling the senses a bit in that direction. Yeah.
You're an accomplished guitarist. You play a lot?
I play a lot, yeah, but I don't play out very often.
No, that was my question. Do you play out a lot?
No, not really. Not anymore. No? I used to. I mean, I went for 20 years. I'd be working at the store, and 3 weeks out of the month I'd be playing in bars, right? And 6 nighters too, I'll have you know, right? I did that for a long time, but then, you know, I ended up having to decide whether I wanted to make a career in music or in retail, and I decided the retail, okay, and mainly because I didn't like the road. I love the audience, I love playing, that's my favorite way to make a living, okay, but I didn't like the road at all. I just, well, it was a solo act for one thing, okay, so it wasn't like you could chum around too easily with anybody, but also, I mean, you know, at the end of the night, I remember one time I was playing this agent was booking me into biker bars a lot, which was great because it was great money, okay, but quite often I'd have to stay in the bar upstairs, right, and sleep there. And the last one, it was the last straw. I was in this room where the dresser had a mirror that was smashed. Okay, it looked like somebody's head had gone through it. A bed that was missing a leg, so every time I rolled over, plunk, right? The rest of the inhabitants were guys who, for some reason, kept their doors open all night long, screaming and stuff, and decorating their rooms with beer bottles. And I had to share a bathroom with these guys and a shower and all that. I'm thinking, I want to go home. I don't like it here. And that was pretty well the last straw. That's when I figured I wasn't into the road.
Take over the family business.
Yeah. Well, there was still, it's still very possible at that time to just stay in London and play all the time. Like it was, yeah. And then I got married and I had kids and stuff, and I thought to myself, all my life the gig has been the most important thing. I've got to make it. It's not the most important thing anymore. There's this kid. Kid who, by the way, the last one kept me up 4 years in a row, okay, with no sleep. So it's little wonder I didn't have enough energy to go play. So but yeah, it's been fun though. Like I'm a lucky guy all the way around. I mean, I've been living a sitcom, like I keep saying. The characters that come into my life, it's just great.
Where do you see the business going?
Well, I'm just going to keep doing what I do. I don't see any reason to even think about retirement or anything right now. I mean,
Good.
I love doing it. And, it's not like I'm chipping at rocks all day or something. I should be able to do this for quite a while. And, but the main thing, though, is I've had to get control over my expenses, get control over the stock I sell.
Yep.
And basically listen a lot to what my customers need and want, and not drop the ball. This is not the time for me to drop the ball on any of the issues, price, service, quality, all that stuff. So I just try to do what I do.
Well, you have a huge loyal clientele, and it's the way you, your dad, your staff treat people, and that wins out, in my books anyways, that wins out over other things. And I have no doubt that's why people keep coming back through the front doors, is because it's like going home. Like, when I go in there, it's kind of like if my wife, who has a business just down the road a bit, she's kind of like, okay, you're going to be gone for an hour and a half. I'm just going to go over and talk to the girls, because she knows once I go in the candy store, I don't want to come out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not just about buying some, but it's like walking in and you start talking to your friends. And, like you said, we all like to talk about this stuff. Even if you're not a gearhead, like our good friend Kyle, we love to talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
You walk in there, I run into Gary McGill, Reiner, you run into friends inside a store full of friends. Like, really, how much cool can this get?
That's what I'm saying. Why would I ever retire?
Yeah.
Yeah. So pretty happy about the atmosphere, man. That's if you got to be there as many hours as I got to be there, it's got to be enjoyable, or else why are you doing it?
How many years you been in business now? Gotta think about this.
Well, 49 years.
49 years.
I was 10 years old when I started working in the store. Okay, in '63 when it was a branch still. And the only reason I was there working, and I was cleaning stuff, is because they couldn't get a babysitter, right? And my mother worked at the store too, and there was just the three of us kind of thing. But throughout the years, though, my father had me. He's a great teacher. That's one thing. Taught me how to do guitar repairs, and he had a lot to say about that. Okay, and he actually had some techniques that were pretty innovative back in the '60s and stuff, as far as dressing frets and stuff. the gradual radius thing. I mean,
Yep.
he came up with that on his own, and then later it became a thing, but not necessarily from the same source. But he was doing that to Strats a long time ago, and yeah, and so over the years I got to learn a lot. But yeah, so 10 years old, 59 now. Okay, and I took a break in my 20s. I went playing on the road and stuff, right, instead of being in the store. But yeah, it's a long haul. Now that I think about it.
We still got all your hair. It's a different color, but you still got all your hair.
That's just dumb luck.
Well, you know what? I was in
Story of my life.
the store a few months ago. You were working in the office there. Your dad was in there, and he was doing something in the acoustic guitar room. Walked in, and I hadn't seen him. I bet you it's got to been 20 years. Walked in, and he had a screwdriver in his hand, turned around and said, "Hi, Jim, how are you?"
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. You know?
Yeah.
Of all the hundreds and hundreds of people coming in here, and you remember me from 20 or 25 years ago, you know? Like,
Yeah.
That speaks volumes.
Oh, yeah. His memory's way better than mine. So a lot of the 80s I forget. But in any case, yeah.
Look, I want to thank you so much for coming down here tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's always a pleasure to go in the store and talk to you. I wish you nothing but the greatest success, my friend. You deserve it. You've treated every one of us. Words can't describe it. It's like looking at that Bogan Challenger head downstairs. It brings back memories, and you know what? No matter how much money you have in the world, there's certain things in this life you cannot buy.
Yeah.
And my experience with your dad, with you, it doesn't matter if I stop music tomorrow. That will always be with me, and for that I want to thank you, my friend.
Thanks, bud.
Thank you.
There's one thing I have to mention before we stop completely. My mother, for many years, was the bookkeeper.
Yep.
Okay, and she did a great job and all that, and that's all part of what to keep a business alive. I just thought I'd better mention that she helped keep it alive, and now my own wife is helping keep the business alive currently. So I mean, things are very family oriented, but on the other hand, we've always come across and done more professional kind of work. So, but it's important to have all that backbone.
And when I've gone in there, your wife, she's running around like a tornado.
Oh, I know.
You can tell she's got everything like happening. She's got everything under her thumb.
It's great. So I just thought I better mention them because they are a big part of what went on. Okay, so
thank you, my friend.
Thanks a lot.
For your time.
Yeah, cheers, bud.